So let's declare the meeting open for Narren-Hyman Town Council, February 13th, 2023. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest in general nature thereof? And then we have delegations from our Chief Librarian of the Town of Espanola. This is Rosemary Ray. Welcome.
Thank you for having us. Where would you like me to? I have to take any advantage I can, since I happen to be married to a guy that was up here.
Oh.
Anyway, I thank you for having us come. Okay, I can do that.
I'm so sorry, Rosemary. It's not unleashed.
Okay, that's fine. Do they all, have they all got it electronically?
The whole package.
Okay.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Online. You're done with it? Pictures.
Yeah.
Espanola Library. It says delegations.
I missed that. I'm like,
Do you want me to help you find it?
oh, wait, do I let her go now?
Okay.
I sent you the big package, which I've given to all our council members in Espanola. We did an orientation with each of the council members back from November right on through till January. So I gave them the whole spiel. I've given you that, but I've also given you a very short and concise snapshot of Espanola Public Library in the last 5 years. And on the front page, of course, we just have to identify that the library is not just about books. It's about people who are using resources for their entertainment, for their economic benefit, or just for socialization in general. And I want to say the library in general in Espanola is also proud to be a safe haven for anybody that needs that as a refuge. We're happy to make sure that people are safe when they're in our library. And we do have a lot of teens and homeless people that do come in and utilize our services that way. The snapshot just includes our hours for the last 5 years. And of course, COVID gave a little bit of a dip to our hours over the 3-year period. So on our sheet, you can see it takes a huge dive through 2020 to 0 when we were shut down. And then it goes back up. Our hours have now returned to normal. We are at full service hours to our public. And we're happy that that's the fact, because that's important. The second item on the snapshot shows the entries, which are our visitors. And again, I'm very happy to see that our visitor ratio is starting to rebound very nicely. There was a concern that people wouldn't come to the library if they hadn't been coming for so long, because we were obliged to offer curbside service for more than a year. And even when we did open, we were open for a whole 7 days to the public again, and then we were shut down again to only curbside. So it was sad that we couldn't interact with our patrons within the building itself, but we are rebounding nicely, and we're happy to say one of the particular groups that we're really seeing come in is the tween and teenage groups. We get the high school students coming in during the day. Now they may be escaping from class, but that really isn't on us to monitor. But we also get the tweens coming right after school. And we actually have specific programming that we've developed because they're there and that they're participating in that, which is wonderful. Our circulation has almost rebounded to the full measure that it was back in 2018 as well. And that is a testament to the fact that the staff have worked really, really hard to get the items that people want and have them in stock for people when they ask for them. We take special requests for people that have items they specifically want. And we have a lot of favorite authors that we just have to make sure we have in stock for people. Our programs are slowly rebounding. Our attendance at those programs, again, is slowly rebounding. And please watch out for our March break announcements. We've got a full slate of 5 days of programming specifically for the kids when they're off at March break. And we're just getting that PR ready to go out now. We're including things like superhero games, superhero party, sorry. And we've got a 2-day movie marathon of Harry Potter. And we've got some digital games that they'll be able to play. And actually, Brittany probably knows the games better than I do, don't you?
Yes, but we're not really, the PR is not ready yet. so.
Okay, okay. I was right. We're not quite ready yet, but we are getting there. The one place where we've really rebound and gone above what we used to offer was the digital resources. People have really embraced the fact of ebooks and digital resources being available, partly because they had to during COVID at the initial stages, but our use has actually gone up exponentially, as you can see. It went from just below 4,000 to over 10, almost 10,000 last year, over a 5-year period. The use of our computers is slowly rebounding as well. I think throughout COVID, a lot of people went and bought computers and were able to get things delivered on and through online purchasing. So a lot more people have access to those items now, but we still get a lot of people that come in because they have either no internet access or they can't afford the internet access, or they're just from out of town and they quickly need access. I'm not going to go into the details of our organization and that, but I just wanted to give you those highlights. And I also want to tell you what kind of value we bring to the area of Espanola. And it's offered to Nairn and Hyman as well. Your residents already pay a contracting fee through your public library's operating grant that's given to you by the province. That is submitted to us, and we provide the same services to you as we do to our residents in town. But I want to give you an idea of the value that we give. We had author visits last year. We had several of them actually. And we had 75 people attending those author visits in total. And there's a rough value of about $30 for an author visit for each attendee. So we offered to our public more than $2,000 worth of an actual author talk. And most of them were able to explain their writing process and discuss how they went about doing what they did. And people were really entertained. Our circulation, with more than 31,000 items circulating, our circulation was almost $800,000 worth of materials. And that's based on a very low value of $25 per item. Most of the items that we circulate are actually worth more than that. Our audiobooks alone, if we buy an audiobook through it in an MP3 format, usually they're more than $100. But I put a baseline of $25 per circulation, which returns, like I say, almost $800,000. Our digital resources are valued at about $20 per ebook. And with the almost 10,000 items that circulated, we've got almost $200,000 worth of digital resources being used by the public. And that includes people from Nairn and Hyman and the other contracting municipalities that we have. Just visiting the library is worth a baseline of $5 per visit. Because if you come in to the library for a purpose, and it's got to be worth at least $5. And that's a very low ball figure. Again, over $100,000 worth of value just by entering the library. And the one I really wanted to bring to your attention is our interlibrary loan services that we offer. We share with other libraries across the province our resources, and they share with us their resources. And there's an average value of approximately $14 per item that circulates in that manner. Last year alone, we gave a value of more than $5,000 just in interloans. And that's specific requests from people asking for specific titles, sometimes specific editions as well. In total, just by certain criteria, I could go through the whole list, but I'm not going to bother. What I've got in a return on investment is we provide a value to the community of Nairn and Hyman, Baldwin, Rainbow Country, and Espanola. We offer more than $1 million of a return on investment. And that's just a baseline. The other item that I've provided to you is a preliminary annual report. This has not gone to my board as of yet because our board actually hasn't met until next week. What I've provided in the annual report is the top 10 books that circulated, or top 10 items that circulated last year. The most popular item was our Ontario Parks Pass. That people loved it. It was absolutely wonderful to see people utilizing it and coming back and borrowing it again. In fact, we had a few that came back 2 or 3 or 4 times, actually, I think. I wanted to share with you some of the financials, that this is a very preliminary estimate of the financials. There are a couple of allocations that have not come through as of yet. We're just waiting for those figures to be allocated to our budget lines. But it gives you an idea of where the money comes from and what we spend it on. Your PLOG grant comes to us and we spend it on the resources that your people can use. I really don't know what else I can say. I also wanted to, actually, I should point out, I did include you as one of our partners, of course. So just so you're aware, we have a few partners. We've got some wonderful partners that last year we finally got our video conferencing capabilities installed. They are 2 pods that provide a sound deadened environment, and people can come and use the video conferencing equipment for legal or medical or personal use. And they've gotten a fair bit of use since they were installed last August. And that was funded by DSAB for our use. And like I say, it's a very popular pair of pods. And we're very happy that it's something we've been requested to provide for at least 5 years that I know of. So at least we finally got them. And we didn't have to pay out of the library budget because we just would not have had the kind of money that was needed for that. I know you've got a lot in your package with all the slides. Were there any questions about any of those?
I didn't have questions about the slides, but I completely agree. I think the library has a huge amount of value. I mean, I have 5 children. I used it a ton in various locations. How do you feel? I know we have the tiny library here in the front entrance. You know, I'm thinking especially for our seniors who may have limited transportation options. What can you help us do to reach people in the community here for services?
Are you talking home delivery kind of situation?
I could be. Yeah, I'm just wondering what we can do.
To be honest, when we talked about this with the previous council, the best solution was actually a little library situation where we provide what we can as somebody can pick it up or deliver it. I know I've delivered, I believe Brittany helped me deliver the initial batch. And I know you have a resident who sometimes will pick up items. Okay. There we are. You've got somebody coming in.
Rosemary, we do have some large print books available as well.
Yes, we were, I believe I threw some of them in the last time, if I'm not mistaken. I know there were some boxes picked up back in January, and I believe there was some large print in there. We don't often get the opportunity to provide large prints that are in decent shape, but we do make that effort because we know you need it for your seniors here in particular.
So a little library, if I would just love to see a library in town, and it may be realistic, but is there some way we could be an affiliated branch, or I'm just trying to, I have you here, so I'm Pick your
To be
brain.
honest, with the money that you get from the province, I mean, there'd have to be an upgrade to that. I'm not sure how that could move forward, but I know there was some talk prior to my arrival 7 years ago of providing some kind of regional system. And I'm not sure if that's something maybe as a council you want to look into.
So you mean
researching.
Wash foothills?
Yeah.
Regional
Yeah,
borrowing system.
yeah, that is a possibility, but it take more money than the plug. I will be blunt about that. To be honest, our residents pay substantially more per person, per capita, excuse me, than the plug provides from your perspective. I mean, it's a discussion that can be had. At one point, I know Sable Spanish and the outlying areas, La Cloche on top of that, there was talk at one point, entire region becoming regional. I'm not sure where the talks failed or if it was just a matter they didn't have sufficient interest or maybe insufficient funding. I'm really not sure. I mean, it's something to bring up with local mayors, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, and if you have any ideas moving forward, I mean, yeah, bring them to me.
To be honest, I will be retiring at some point this year. Not really sure how much traction we could get, but we could certainly have some discussions. I mean, if the local mayors were interested in doing something along that line, I'm sure Mayor Gervais would be interested in discussing it. It's a matter of will, right, and funding. So moving it along might be a possibility. I don't know.
Does anyone else have any comments or questions?
Well, I think there's too small for that. Espanola is only 12 miles away, you know. I had no problem. My kids had no problem going to the Espanola Library. You know, all the schools now, high schools there, and public schools all there, close to the library. I don't think it's feasible for there, I don't think. That's my opinion.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but you've moved a little bit close to the camera and we can't see your face anymore.
Oh, okay, which way do I go here?
Just, oh, there you go.
Okay.
Perfect.
I should have stood back further.
Yeah,
I
It was
should have been
good- it was
taller.
Good for the bit, for a bit.
yeah, good job.
Well, thank you so much for coming and speaking to us and making us aware of the library and all the services you provide. And
We just want you to know we're there for you. If there's something we can do, we can talk at least. Sometimes things don't work out quite the way we all want them to, but I'm open to discussion. It would be a matter of talking to the council and talking to the board. So that would be my recommendation. And I have some current newsletters and some business cards I'll leave with you guys,
that's great.
if that's okay.
I just want to say I used one of your pods the other day. It was awesome.
I think they're great. We've been asked for video conferencing for more than 5 years, so I'm very happy.
It's fantastic
That we
for
were
me
able-
because I go from town to town for different meetings
Mhm.
and sometimes you have a meeting in between your commute and it's a nice place to stop for sure.
And they're pretty soundproof. They're not totally soundproof and of the outside. So it's all good. So thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, my email's there. I'm happy to respond. Thank you.
Any discussions arising from previous council minutes? No, okay, so let's approve. Here we go. Let be it resolved that the following council minutes be accepted as presented. A, regular council meeting minutes, January 9th, 2023, and B, closed session meeting minutes, January 9th, 2023, listed by Trevor McLean, seconded by Councillor Austin. All in favor? It's carried. Dave Petit, I believe you've joined us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I had some technical difficulties, but finally got through.
Okay, that's great. Were you in favor of that?
Yes, that's
Accept
fine. Yeah,
Okay. So that was carried. Then we have, 6A. Well, actually, it's. Uh-oh, somebody messed up the order.
I should go.
I think we're just receiving them as accepted or received. As, yes. So it's number one. So I had them broken up, just, yes. But we can just change that to all of them if you want. Okay, so be it resolved that the minutes and report items 6A to L. Oops, that's H to K, are noted as received. But anyway, we're doing this to L. So, Counselor Austin has moved it, Counselor McVeigh has seconded it, all in favor. Counselor David.
in favor. In favor.
Yep, and so that's passed. Oh, I have to initial that. Oh, no. So we're looking for 6A. Well, we can talk about it. We know that, we had asked CAO Ketchup to prepare a letter to be sent to Hydro One, about increased outages. So we just need to approve the letter and then it would be sent out to neighboring communities. Be it resolved that council receive the CAO's report 2023-5 for information, and whereas the residences and businesses of the township of Narrenheim are subject to frequent power outages, especially during inclement weather, and whereas these power outages can last for a lengthy period of time, resulting in 1, the lack of necessary heating, especially during the winter months, the closing of businesses due to the lack of power, 3, operational concerns for a water treatment plant, for the possible loss of telephone and cell phone services, which is considered a necessity in the event of an emergency. And 5, the loss and spoilage of food due to the lack of proper refrigeration. Now therefore be it further resolved that the township of Narrenheim requests that Hydro One complete an assessment of the frequent power outages that occur in our municipality. And further that Hydro One prepare an action plan to improve the reliability of hydro service in our area. All in favor?
Oh, I'm absolutely in favor of that one. That was a very nice, written letter.
That is carried. That will be sent to surrounding neighboring communities, so that then it's just not our little tiny voice, it's a few people. So our next thing is the public conduct policy. And would anyone like to discuss that? Or speak to it, I guess, Counselor?
No, I'm not in favor of that at all.
Okay,
I think the taxpayers of this community have the right to walk in that office, ask for information. This is their town. And I know we stopped them from coming to council meeting and speaking at the end of the meeting. And all of a sudden, nobody comes to the meeting. They were interested in it before when they could come and express their feeling with us at a council meeting. And now I know Councilor Austin, they're put in a thing there to vote at the end of the meetings, and I think that'd be great to come bring it back to the public. But I don't agree with it.
so, yes, we are working towards people to be able to speak at the end of meetings. Also, people can come as delegations. They just need to, so people can come and speak at our meetings. Also, I think maybe you could speak to the policy and explain what people would be allowed to do. CAO Ketchum.
Yeah. Thank you through you, Madam Mayor. This policy doesn't deal with people coming in on a daily basis and complaining. That's not what this policy is for. This policy is for harassment, for coming in and threatening staff, for extremely rude behavior, swearing. That's what this policy is for. It's not for general complaints. That 100% is a citizen's right to come in and talk to us about issues, complaints. What this policy is a way for staff to understand what kind of behavior is acceptable that they have to accept from the public. And it also gives the public, here's the bar, here's what an acceptable level of behavior is. And if you go above it, you're gonna get a warning, and hopefully that's where it stops. I think it's having this policy in place will just stop 99.9% of the issues that it's not for someone calling in and saying, why isn't my road plowed? That's not what this policy is for. We're dealing with extreme behaviors. It's gotten a little bit better since the last year, but throughout COVID and the months preceding, we've dealt with extreme behaviors where I've actually had to call the OPP in several times. So that's what this policy is for. It's just an expectation of what's allowed in the office and what it isn't. And this policy I've done in conjunction with other municipalities, actually 31 municipalities I've worked with over the last 2 months creating this policy, and they all have this almost identical policy. So it's not something I dreamed up. It's just something to say, this is okay, or this isn't. So that's what it's for.
Well, hang on, Councillor McDonald, we're gonna hear from the other councillors first.
I agree with it. I've compared this one to the one I have at work and also with the city of LA Lake. Just because I know the gentleman there very well. And I thought, yeah, actually, don't take this the wrong way. I thought it was coffee. Because it's very, very close and you do need it. I don't know if the MOL comes in at a point where somebody says they were threatened by a citizen or whether. Like, I know what at our place at work, you can't do that, like, and you do have it. I've heard from employees that have said it, so we have to take, I think as a counselor, we have to take care of our employees as well. If you're gonna, I think you're right, if you're calling to say you don't like the roads or whatever, you come in and start name calling and start threatening and start yelling and hollering. Nobody needs that. I don't think there's an employee or a person that needs that. So you need policies and procedures, so you can say, hey, listen, you've been warned, don't do it again. You do it again, you're not coming back. I personally don't care if you pay taxes and you want to yell at somebody and you think it's all right. It's not all right. Like, you have to come in and work in a working manner or stay at a level where you need and want. Like, I don't know. It's identical to my one at work, and I did see the one from LA Lake yesterday. And it was, it's very well, it's the same thing. And I imagine if I went in contact with Espanola, it would probably look very similar to theirs as well. So.
Councillor Despatie, do you have any comments?
Well, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Council, as well as all our employees, in my opinion, should not be subjected to foul language or false accusations or anything else. And I totally support this policy 100%.
That's very clear. Councillor Austin, you have comments?
Yeah, I think about why we needed it in the first place. There are a lot of issues that we have with people coming in like that, and we need a policy that you can't just tell them. You said you called me before, isn't that?
I think what our staff need is, what if I'm not here? Like, I've made the call several times, but sometimes employees don't feel supported. Yeah, or they're not sure what the right steps are to take. So if they have this policy,
they can actually give it to the person and say, sorry, you can't come in here like that. Here's the policy. If you have any questions, call the CAO. So we have had a lot of instances. I could probably, one resident, we probably had about 10 instances before the OPP was called in. Another resident came in and threatened our life. So I had to take action, but then again, that's my job. My job is to protect the staff through the Occupational Health and Safety Act. If I don't do that, then me as their boss, I'm liable. So I think it's just important to have it in place. I don't think, maybe we'll never have to use it. Hopefully we don't. That's the point of it.
It says here, I have a hard time, this to me looks like something from a big corporation. Now, somebody comes in and insults you and asks you, you ask them to leave. Now they can appeal, but who are they appealing to? They're appealing back to you.
Well, they can have their voice heard. Everyone has
Yeah,
the right to
but-
have their side heard. Maybe they just were having a super bad day and they're gonna come in and apologize.
In my own feelings, if you do something like that, then council should be dealing, you ban somebody from the office.
The problem is don't get me wrong, if
Yeah.
that's the way you want it to read, we can make amendments.
Well, I have no problem with you banning them from the office, that's good, but they can only appeal to you,
Okay, that's a
so
good
that
point.
don't sound. You're appealing to the person that threw them on. I think it should, at that point, it should go to council, and I'm sure council's going to agree with you. But you have a reason for doing that. It just doesn't seem, appeal process is going back to the same person that punished her.
I've had an issue with the word frivolous, because I think many complaints can seem frivolous. But I liked the definition that it needed to be the same complaint about exactly the same issue. It can't, which is true, once council has dealt with a complaint, we don't want to hear exactly the same thing. Again, it's been dealt with. So we have to look at the definitions of the word. Councillor McDonald, you had more comments?
Yes, I was just wondering why council was never approached with this problem before now. Like, I was in the office once and I remember Belinda, CEO and Melanie, they told me that they had somebody.
Actually, let's not refer to any names, so.
I said, excuse me, I said, I made a mistake. I've been on council for 18 years now, and just the last couple of years where we gotta watch what we say. I just mentioned her name because it was an accident, okay? I didn't do it on purpose.
No, I know, let's just try not to mention.
I am trying, man. I'm trying all best I can. I got a subject here that I'm interested in, and I'm gonna talk about it. No, I was just concerned, CEO, why council was never noticed this, other than that one time I was in the office, you told me about one taxpayer that come in. And I think my answer was to you to phone the police if they come in and raise tax. So before I would agree with this here, you're putting the taxpayers, this is their town, and they should have a right to speak, but they gotta be appropriate. If they're not, you can have them removed from the office. But right at this moment, I'm not gonna vote for this policy at all. I'll work with you.
Madam Mayor,
Oh, let's just let Councillor McDonald finish for a second.
all right,
Thank you. No, I've been in this town all my life, and I know that most of the taxpayers here, and me, once they see this bylaw, they might be a little upset, I don't know. If they agree with that or not, and I couldn't go and mention it to them because it's not passed yet, eh? But I mean, I get some complaints, and we probably will, but I think we better slow down a little bit. I wouldn't pass this tonight. I think we need more discussions, and I'd like to know more a report saying all the problems they had in the last 3 or 4 years, with leads up to this. You know, and complaints, one time I asked for a copy of the complaints, and I have to go through the freedom of information, a counselor got to go through freedom of information to get complaints from the taxpayer to that office. I don't think it's right. So, if I get a report from the CEO stating all the problems they were having and why the council wasn't approached by it before now. Because maybe we could have did something a little differently in this motion here. So I'm not gonna jump into it. I'll look at it and I'll work with you. If you decide to pass this tonight, I would vote in.
Counselor Despatie?
Yes, I'd just like to address Councillor McDonald's statement that he'd never heard anything about this before. I can personally tell you that a couple of meetings ago, I addressed council regarding such a matter where a complaint was made against me, which was totally unfounded and had no grounds whatsoever. And they should have thrown him out of the office instead of taking this complaint. So I'm prepared to vote in favor of this policy right here and right now.
Would the policy have actually happened to that incident with Counselor Despatie or?
It could have, depending on the nature. It more deals with staff and the public interactions, but it also doesn't.
Well, like Counselor Austin.
I just would like to see that one final change in there where council gets a report from the CAO and that.
Right.
But am I correct? Sorry, am I correct? Like, the staff is yours. We work with you, so you are responsible. And that's why we did it at my office, was because our manager is responsible for all of their staff. And in the end, the MOL's coming after you, which is then gonna come back to us. So there is gonna be
Correct.
some ramifications for us not having a policies and procedure for harassment. It doesn't, there is some, I don't know the exact words to it, but there is some legality there as well. I'm surprised you guys don't already have one. Prior council didn't do this.
We have that very old one, but it deals only with staff versus staff, not public with the staff. So that's, I mean, that one needs to be updated as well, which we're also working on, but this is more what's
No, just because
expected of.
I read this, I went
Yeah.
to ours and we have both as well. so
Some of
again,
them
we're just-
combine both of them, in one big policy. I felt this was more important to address first. Just due to, we've had, I'd say at least 3 incidents since Christmas. So
That's it.
it comes and goes,
you know,
but
Yeah, I know.
Our staff
when,
doesn't-
bad incidents, like, all you need is a phone call where the language is inappropriate and maybe it has historically been accepted, you know?
that's the problem. It was accepted.
Yeah. So if I'm looking at the policy, where am I, okay, no, this is it, I found it. So should we take time out and possibly make the amendments that Counselor Austin is talking about, or should we do it right here?
Can I just ask, how would you, so if, and I'm gonna pick on myself, I come in as a citizen, not as council. So, and I belittle or I name call Melanie, so we'll take one out of it. I get my warning that, hey, we don't need the language, the cussing, the name calling. Don't, and then obviously, so I leave, and I come back and I do it again. And I'm told, hey, listen, this isn't baseball, you don't get 3 strikes, you've been told once, you've been told twice, you're doing the same thing again, same language, this is how we do it at work, at my work. And they then tell them, you're out of here. How would you do it if you had to come back to council? You gotta wait a month to come back to council to do that? Again, you know, I'm throwing it at both, just your ideas, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cause I do this at work and we don't care how much money you pay me, whether it be taxed, and you know, everybody pays me more than the tax dollars here. And we get rid of you, we fire you as a client, we're not putting up with you. We can't do that obviously as taxpayers, but we do need to have a safe work environment, and I believe everybody coming in the door should, even if I'm mad and I don't like what happened, I still have to be respectful. So I don't know how we monitor it, how we get it back to us without waiting a month.
I'm not saying that the person in charge can't do that, but we have to be notified and make the final decision. She's made her decision. That person has made their decision. But we have no knowledge of it, and the citizen is gonna come to us then.
So then do we just get, would she then just would?
The citizen could just write a letter to council, that could be,
It won't be a matter, there'll be no screaming at councillors because they've been banned from the office. And we need to know the facts of what happened, whether.
Like for the three times, it's the three times you've been, not you, sorry, 3 times that it's happened. If she did decide, or they did decide, would it just be
There
an
could
email?
be a notification.
Yeah, just said, here's an email.
Here's
This
what
person's
happened.
been removed. Cause I don't know,
Yeah.
like, in my company, in my office, we get an email that says, hey, this is your client. You're not gonna like hearing this, but they've been moved, so then now I lost me. But then I have to, I make a phone call and say, you did it to yourself. We're all grown adults, I don't deal with kids, and obviously, it's more than, I don't think you're just, if I go in and call you stupid. That's not it, it is.
No,
there's a
someone
bar.
comes in, they're having a bad day, they vent on us a little bit, we try to resolve the problem, maybe it takes a phone call saying, you know, I looked at your situation, here's what we could do. That's not what this policy is there for, it's for the repeat offenders, it's for the person that is trying to get staff fired over something that's not even a real issue. Just because it's a personal thing, it's, you know, just unsafe and appropriate behavior.
Councilor McDonald.
Who made this report, this procedure?
The policy,
Policy.
I worked together with a couple other CAOs. And we picked and choose from different policies to what I thought would be best for our municipality.
But it is a somewhat standard.
It is a very
policy.
standard policy. I just made it more applicable to our smaller.
So is it standard to go to the ombudsman office because it seems to be that if there is a dispute, it goes to the CAO and
Eventually, if it gets
escalated.
very escalated, yes.
So yeah, at this point, it doesn't look to me that there's a council step in there that's,
Unless it's beyond extreme, I really don't feel that it should be, to be honest.
She didn't really answer my question. Who did
She-
it?
she-
She did?
She did it with
I
other
did it
municipalities.
Oh, with
a
other-
couple other
okay, I'm sorry,
municipalities, yes.
You know, I'm just a little concerned that I had no other than just getting this now, and then you want me to make a decision on it. To me, like Councilor Austin said, that the taxpayers, they call me and, sure, they get angry with me too, and I talk to them, I discuss things with them, I tell them how it works, and usually it turns out pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, you put pressure on people that it's, you know, you're pushing the taxpayers, I think, by not allowing them to go in there. I don't agree with them going in there speaking like that. Not, my nature is not to go in there and curse at people or anything, and I'm upset with them, but you know, you gotta, we gotta handle it. And staff's gonna have to handle it too. When you go in the office, you just like Wayne said, you call the police if they're out of order. This here might not even help. So what people that are angry, they might not even look at this.
Councilor Austin.
Like you said, I'd like to, we go from the department head or whatever to the ombudsman. I figure we should be, there should be a step in there when we do. But
Well, yeah, so there's a step where we could be notified. But you are recommending that we have the ability to make a ruling, which is only effective. You're going to go against what your CAO has decided. So that's where it gets tricky. Are you supporting your CAO in, making a decision about ridiculous
I think
behavior?
we're definitely supporting the CEO. But
So.
90% of the time we won't say that, but the blame is always going to that one person. It's been reviewed by everybody. We know what's happened. We can deal with it. If it's, do it by a phone call. The closer after the incident, we will all report it and then agree with it. Or disagree. We don't have a special council meeting there.
Well, we might actually, if you're, I don't know that you could do it. Yeah,
Yeah, that would be the legal counsel.
yeah.
I don't think it's something that's gonna happen very often. If at all, I don't know.
I don't think our staff should be belittled or picked on. If somebody can't learn their lesson, they've been told once, twice, I don't think. Like I say, we're not playing baseball. The third time, you can't talk nice to somebody, then don't talk to them at all, right? Like it's.
And I'm sure there will be a change in behavior if we pass this and like, the bar would be raised somewhat. You can,
This isn't, like, we're not reinventing the wheel, sorry, yeah, sorry.
no, you're not wrong.
This is, after reading this when we got the minutes, this isn't, I know you're saying we just got this, but we were given it whatever Thursday or whatever Friday. I made some calls. I just called I called our HR department and she sent us ours. And she sent me two different ones here, right? Like the one for me to my employees and then one for my clients to our front office staff. Ours is a little bit different. It just goes front office staff. You can pick on me, but you can't pick on them. But and I spoke to Dan in Elliott Lake and his is almost identical to this
Yeah,
one
there's
here.
very similar.
Very similar. So they've done the same thing, right? And it's a normal thing. Espinola's got the same thing. They've enacted it. We're not reinventing the wheel with this by no means. Everybody knows. And if you don't know as a 50-year-old man or an 80-year-old woman or whatever, you have to act appropriately. It's sad that we have to do this, is what.
Counselor Dave Petit is moving, that's why we.
I just think it's too much.
Yeah.
Simplify it a little bit.
What I'm saying, there is, perhaps, some counselors, here, have been reprimanded for the same kind of behavior. So how can they accept, a policy that, will prevent that behavior? That's all I'm saying.
Counselor Dave Petit, I think you just
I
said.
cannot hear him talk. I understand.
I think what he was saying that some of this behavior described might actually be how some of the counselors behave.
That's correct. Yeah.
He's referring to me, man.
Well, let's not make it.
Well, he said the council, there's only 4 of us on council.
I don't know if. I think I'm feeling a lot of consensus, except that maybe we alter that, under dispute, the CAO shall review the appeal, may confirm, rescind or amend the restrictions and notify current council. We could add that. And that could be as simple as an email. That doesn't give council the right to overturn her decision. But it means we would know. Would that be acceptable to you, Counselor McVeigh?
Fine with it.
Counselor Dave Petit?
Yes.
Counselor Austin? Would that be an acceptable amendment?
I'm not sure of the exact wording, but,
Well, just that if there has been an incident where someone is not allowed to come into the office, council would be made aware. We wouldn't be overturning the decision,
no, we definitely don't want to return the decision. That's,
but it would be communicated from the CAO to council that there's been an issue, because odds are that person may be calling one of us anyway. So we might as well know.
That's reasonable.
Does that sound good?
sounds a lot better.
No, do I get a chance to talk?
You talk lots, Councilor
Well,
McDonald,
this is
but
very.
you can talk again.
This is, I'm a taxpayer here too. And if I wasn't on council, I don't think I would like that. Is there any way can we put this out to the public to see what response we get from them? That'll pass it.
Would anybody else be interested in showing this to the public beforehand to see their opinion? I would not.
I don't think we're gonna get many opinions.
Well,
Yeah.
we're
The
gonna get
opinions
that.
you're gonna get are the people that would do this. That would, the people that would really be offended would be like, oh man, I can't watch my tongue and I yell, so I don't like this.
Yeah.
That's the people you're gonna hear from. the
People
squeaky
can
wheel.
come in and complain. People can come in and express their concerns,
Something to do
but
with
they
it.
do have to be polite. They
Yes, I agree
can't
with you.
yell, they can't be physically intimidating, and they can't complain about exactly the same thing once the decision has been made. So that's the issue.
What I'm trying to get to is that we gotta respect the taxpayers. You know, we can't treat them like all of it, because we got, like you said, there's only a handful maybe that's gonna cause the problem. And we're treating the whole town, all the ratepayers the same way. That we don't,
This is just the policies and procedures. It's not, I'm not picking on, I'm not picking on anybody. Well, the CEO is picking on everybody. No, she is not. She's saying everybody has to abide by this guideline. You have to be, you know, that's all. Abide by the guideline, which is normal and is polite, and there's no reason to be rude to anybody. There's no reason to call names. There's no reason to threaten. I can't imagine somebody threatening your life over any issue in the town of Narragansett. I can't believe that there's that much. I can't like, and that could be just you're having a bad day, or I'm having a bad day. And you can get through that by an apology the next day, but if you come back and do it again. If you did that to one of my employees, you'd be gone and you'd also know about it. I would have no problem. I don't care how much money you pay, you're gone. And that's me protecting my employees. And I think we have to do that too, and that's all she's trying to do.
yeah, but she's trying to do it all the time. If we give her the okay to somebody that comes in there, that she can ban them from the office or something. Maybe I can go along with that, but, you know. But this, for the whole,
So what, it would be okay if, it'd be okay if it was, if you agreed with her, but then if you didn't agree with her because it was a friend or I don't know, family or somebody you didn't like.
yeah,
we
who-
have to, it's,
who's police this bylaw.
well, she's gonna police it and she's gonna send us and let us know, and we're gonna see it. And then you're gonna say, oh, yeah, and she's not gonna like, I find it extremely hard to believe that she's gonna use it as a power trip.
No, I don't mean that.
Well, then that's the only way to look at it.
Well, I don't think it will be used and enforced unless absolutely necessary. We're hoping that it never gets.
You hope you never have to use it. but
Yeah.
You had to use, if somebody, if
But
that's true that somebody threatened somebody's life here before, I think that person should be banned. I don't know how anybody could stand up and say, well, you know, he was having a bad day.
I don't say that. I don't know why you keep
Then
saying
that's
that.
that's the only answer to the problem. It's like I deal with
Because
it.
somebody's gonna have a bad day, this bylaw is not gonna mean nothing to them.
Well, that's fine, but you're not coming back to the office to do it again. You call 40 times and you're ignorant and rude, you're not calling again either. Like, you have to have some, it's sad that in this world we have to do that, but
Okay, you got, just excuse me, quick. If you got this bylaw here now, and somebody comes in anyway and curse and swear at them, what are you gonna do?
well, you're gonna call the police and charge them with
Call
trespassing and do
them
them.
right off the bat.
well, actually, before we get to that, let's
There
see.
be de-escalation techniques. We're all trained in de-escalation. that would not be the first response.
Or even, you know, you've answered the phone, someone is swearing and speaking inappropriately, you just say, this is not appropriate, I'm not tolerating this, right? We don't have that policy now. It does seem like common sense, but we don't have that as a policy.
Common sense.
Wouldn't be dealing with.
Yeah. It's very sad that society we've come to, because I see it all the time at work and it boggles my brain how, why we even have to discuss it, but we do, unfortunately.
Counselor Dave Petit would like to say something. I think.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think, all this discussion is beside the point. The point is, municipalities are the problem, and I
We can't hear you.
Hello?
Can't hear you, Guy.
We can't hear you.
Not really clearly.
It's blur.
It's very fuzzy.
Okay, no.
Maybe try turning your hand off.
Is this better?
A little bit.
All right. So what I'm trying to say is the point is that this is the policy that's been adopted by municipalities across the country. Why can't Aaron accommodate and pass this procedure, bylaw, like everybody? That's all.
Want to try again, Guy? See if we can hear you now.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. So what I'm saying is, all this conversation is beside the point. All or most municipalities have this procedure bylaw in place right now. Why can't Narren Center come of age and pass this bylaw to be equal with the rest of the municipalities? Why do we have to put up with 1950 rules? Let's pass this bylaw and be like every other municipality in this province.
I think we're ready to move forward, especially if we add the notification, but I moved from the appeal process at the end. I thought maybe we should put it under CAO, where you've made the determination to classify a customer's behavior as unreasonable. And just to add in, you know, so you have to be satisfied the request has been investigated, blah, blah, blah. So when the decision in consultation with the CAO has been taken to classify as unreasonable, we could just add in the steps below to notify council. Does everyone, did you want to make that amendment in the bylaw tonight? Well, that's what I was thinking. I think if that's to your satisfaction. So when it gets more serious, the CAO reports to council.
We're notified.
Yeah, and then after that, there can still be an appeal process and further.
Big city, we're a little community and we have people come right to us.
Yeah, no,
They come right to my door, they talk to me, and I try to get along with the taxpayers, but if we're gonna mandate that they can't do different things, that.
They can go into the council office, they just have to be reasonable
Well, yeah, but this is not going to do it.
to make them reasonable or encourage.
No, like, I bet you most of the taxpayers won't even read this.
No, but you're right.
Still makes your staff feel safe.
Yeah, and your staff will basically be educating people in that, you know, this is inappropriate, this is not acceptable. You need to go calm down, or, you know, whatever it is.
I don't like to pass it tonight. I like more time to look at it because like you said, you only got it from Thursday to now. I like more time I wish I could be able to go and talk to the taxpayers, but I can't do it unless well, I should be able to now because there's people in the public now we're talking. to
Right.
them.
Right.
So could I talk to some of my council or taxpayers?
I think we just already talked that we didn't really think it was of great value to bring it to the public. So we'd already talked about that. Why don't do you want me to make changes on this?
Like you got 10 pages here of things.
Yes, we deal with a lot of legal documents. I could add that into the bylaw, if that's something the council wants to do. Do we need to do that right here? We could add that with the requested amendments.
What we're gonna do?
Just that under the CAO in this bylaw, it hasn't been voted on yet, but that, I'm just going to say a report to council. Do we want to specify that it could be as simple or notify council? So that could be as simple as an email. Do I need to? Does that make it? Yeah, so I've just simplified, so it would just be. Just say with the below requested amendments. So. The amendment. Would say under the CAO, when she's making the determination to classify the customer's behavior as unreasonable. She has to fulfill these 3 steps, that it's been properly investigated. Communication with the member of public has been adequate. That the member of public is not attempting to provide new information. After that, it outlines what the CAO will do. So detail what action staff will take, explain what it means for the individual's contacts with the corporation, advise how long the restrictions will last, when the decision will be reviewed, advise the individual how they could appeal the restrictions, and then we would add notify council. So be it resolved that council receives the CAO's report 2023-6 for information, and further that council approves the public conduct policy as attached to this report and enact bylaw 2023-5 by giving it 3 readings at February 13th, 2023 council meeting to adopt the policy with below requested amendment. But how do we call it, open vote? Recorded vote. So I'm gonna, Counselor McVeigh, how do you?
This is recorded, right?
Yes,
Yes.
recorded.
I'm in favor of it.
Yes, I'm in favor. Counselor Austin. No. Counselor Day. Okay, Counselor Austin is a yes. Counselor Day.
Yes, I'm in favor.
And Counselor Austin.
No.
Oh, Counselor McDonald. I looked at your name and said the rest. So it was carried. Lots of great discussion. Counselor Austin,
I guess that's the definition of
frivolous?
frivolous, we got a word backwards.
Oh, do we? On or
It's
no? Yes, I saw that
But,
too. Yes. Okay, we couldn't find it. We were trying to look for it. So then we have, report number 2023-7, emergency management, the Township of Narren Hyman Mutual Aid Agreement. I think this is just our policy that Espanola will allow us, if we're unable to use our facilities, that we can go there. We've already talked about it in our emergency planning. Any questions or discussion about it?
Counselor Jay Petty, nothing from you?
Nothing here.
Be it resolved that council receives the CAO's report 2023-7 for information and that council agrees to enter into an agreement as attached to this report with the town of Espanola for the mutual use of facilities and equipment for an emergency operations center and facilities and equipment to house or assist evacuees in the event of an emergency, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign all appropriate documents that will be adopted by bylaw at a future council meeting. All in favor?
In favor?
Thanks, Councillor Deputy. That was carried. Oh, another hot. Council CAO's report 2023-8, a review of employee and council remuneration, cost of living and allowance. So before we get started, I just want to make it clear that we cannot address people by name. We do have a closed session, and if we want to start naming individual employees, we could go to closed session later in the evening. So any comments about that? Councillor Dave Petit, do you want to start us off?
Not at this time.
What was that? Sorry,
None at this time.
not at this
I have
time.
no comment at this time.
Anyone else have any comments?
We're on, 6D, eh?
Yes.
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 We're not going to go in camera.
We are in camera. We can talk about it in closed session
Can't be
later.
in camera. We're gonna see somebody from public here.
Visitor bylaw officer, he's a statutory officer of the municipalities, but we're not in camera right now. So,
We're not in.
No.
no,
Well, that's what I'm
cameras-
trying to say.
In camera.
Oh, okay.
That's, I was to discuss this in camera.
In the past, we've just, when it was just the cost of living allowance, again, across all wage. We can discuss it in open. If we want to discuss individual employee salaries, it does have to be. in.
Can we mention the percentage of raise?
Oh, yes, yes.
So we are talking about 6.8%. It can apply to us as council, as well as the town employees, or we could not have it applying to us. Councilor McDonald,
6.8 way too high.
that is, if you see, in our notes, it is the Ontario cost of living.
Well, we don't have to, agree.
No, we don't have to follow that. Is that in our employment agreement at all?
We did pass a new employment agreement, HR bylaw that stipulated that there would be agreed upon wage grids prepared. Those wage grids are not ready yet. So there was discussion with the past council that until those wage grids were prepared, that council would look at the cost of living as a yearly increase, which they have done for at least the last 10 years. It just happens to be quite high this year based on the consumer price index that is across the board.
It is a difference of, $20,000 for our current employees. Does that
And
actually?
stuff, and council.
And council too, so we can save a little money. Actually, what I noticed was it didn't make a big difference if council thought that they
Not if
or
they're
not,
not.
no. But what I did think was that $20,000 does not include if we did have a third public works employee.
It does, it does include, it's based on having a third employee.
Oh, wow, yes, then let's get somebody. Laura. Any thoughts, Councilor McVeigh?
I don't know that. No. I thought, I know that 6.8, it seems high, but I thought always before 5% was the norm. At least in my private sector.
Councilor Austin?
I would like to see this wage comparison before we do anything. Because the cost of living has been backdated to January 1st, and I was doing that.
Okay.
I'd like to see the cost of living right now. wage comparison, great to know where we stand with the whole thing.
with other municipalities, so a
I
comparison
mean,
with
that was done years ago, and some of our employees were low, some were high. Where do we stand now? I don't know.
I can't speak to individual,
No,
salaries.
I just think somewhere I must. Pointing with.
We're getting closer to where they should be,
Yeah,
but still quite low.
I think before we make a wage change, we should know.
Council McDonald,
Yes, the CEO, at the last year, we negotiated with this. I lost my train of thought there, but, just give me a second here. When we, talked about your wages. Not your wages, the staff.
Yeah.
Counselor. You give a report saying that other communities. Were way below them, and I asked for a report of all the little communities, and I never got it. Can you give us a report now with other communities they're getting?
I don't have it right in front of me tonight, but I
No.
can certainly do that at a future meeting, of course.
Well, I'll say the next meeting, if we like Wayne, go Mr. Or CEO, or Councilor Austin there said that, you know, like there's no rush to this because you just go back
No,
to January
No, you're
first.
right.
Councillor McVeigh, is that something you
I
would,
agree with that.
okay. Councillor Despatie, does that sound like a good idea to you too?
Yeah, I have no problem with that. If we are all overpaid, you know, we can,
Do we want to
not,
keep it?
have. Hello?
No, sorry, you keep going.
Yeah, if we're overpaid, that's fine, and if we're, below, we'll take the cost of living. I've got no issues with that.
So at this time, do you want to separate council from town employees, or you want to keep it all together?
Table the whole thing.
Okay.
What it is.
Yeah, I would, keep everybody together.
So we just want to defer the decision.
Yes.
Yes, and then ask for the similar municipalities. I forgot to bring in link. Similar size. So be it resolved that council receives the CAO's report, 2023-8 for information, and that the CAO will provide council with a staff report outlining a comparison wage grid of municipalities similar size. Can I have someone move this?
I'll move it.
Can you second it, Councillor Despatie?
I can.
All in favor?
In favor.
Councillor De- And that's carried. So next, we're looking at our fourth quarter financial update. Did anyone have any? Actually, I think we're just accepting it, or did anyone have any comments?
I might have one in a minute.
None for me, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway, let me get think here for a second. Oh. You know, they didn't calcium sand, Cool Dock Road or Sandby Road up there this year because they didn't have, the appropriate, money for it there, I was told. Well, he's way under budget. You know, you think. And I went up there in August when I got complaints about the dust and I can't believe that they didn't raise a fuss about that. Because I went up there, Cold Dock Road, it was just dust and the wind was blowing towards the camps. And I know I got 2 or 3 little complaints and I'm pretty sure Belinda said she got complaints too with the dust. But and what I got from, not from the town, but from taxpayers, that they were told that he didn't have the money and he's way, way under budget.
Yeah, I remember asking about that, because they brought it up at a campaign, there's some story, you wanna speak to that? Yeah, through you, Chair, we discussed that at a prior council meeting. That was just unfortunately rumors that were floating around. The reason why it wasn't done is we didn't have the equipment. We didn't have the truck we didn't have the small truck. It was down all summer. So we were using personal vehicles to do our running around. So that's why it wasn't Helston.
Well, we hired somebody to calcium. We don't use our own trucks.
According to our municipal superintendent, we do it.
That was brought up, the thing with the little truck.
Okay, well.
We
the
contracted
information
out every year, I know.
Well, he explained the process to me. He uses,
They used to go
Okay.
around, excuse me, they used to go around with the water and wet it down so it wouldn't be dust or whatever for the trucks and that. But the calcium is always done by a contractor.
well, according to my information, that's what the municipal superintendent has told me. Something we can address next summer, definitely. I mean, it's not an issue right now, but the issue wasn't money, that's for sure.
So it's something that we do in the spring, right? The calcium, spring, summer, yeah.
So he said it wasn't about,
Wasn't about money because we're under budget.
that's what I said, you know, why wasn't it done?
Mhm.
Something we can definitely look at improving.
Counselor Austin.
I got a question, I'm looking at our water budget here. And, it's 154,000 we spent, and we budgeted 264. Does that mean we're charging the taxpayers for 264,000 for water? We're only spending that, and the courses we just took, both courses, said this is supposed to be revenue neutral. We're $100,000 out.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. No, you're right, Wayne, it is supposed to be revenue neutral. If you read the notes, we didn't complete the capital work done through the grant. So most of that money was grant funded. There was a small amount that was to be put through, like the 25% of that project was paid through the municipality. A portion of that was going to be taken out of reserves and a portion of that was collected. So when we do our year end, that portion that we did actually collect through the water will be put into reserves as that project's going to go forward in 2023. So, or this year, sorry. So you're correct. We shouldn't be, but the majority of that overage in that department was grant funded. So since we didn't do the work, we didn't get the money from the grant. So
I understand having reserves and everything, but this course we took told us we're not supposed to. I don't understand it. I think we should have, but
I think what you're saying is that it will be revenue neutral.
it is,
Okay.
it's always revenue
Yeah.
neutral. There was a slight amount of taxes taken in for that project for our portion, which are put into reserves until we do actually start the project.
okay.
So that'll be reflected in our budget and our year-end reserve transactions. So you'll see that when you get your budget, this amount was moved back over to reserves because we didn't use it.
Are you talking general reserve? or-
No, we have we have 2 specific water reserves.
Again, we were told we shouldn't have them. That's why I'm having a hard time understanding it, but both the fellow here, one in Espanola, said, your water. should-
You are allowed to put money into reserves for capital
Yeah,
water, not for operating expenses.
okay.
It makes sense because eventually we will have some big
That
expense.
makes sense to have reserve, there were telling us the truth.
I thought there was the same way. I thought it was operations we couldn't collect money on, but if we had, we could do it for capital stuff, right? Like if, 'cause if
Yeah.
you got building repairs.
Yeah.
And I know like you've seen them in some other municipalities where all of a sudden. Aqua walks in and says, you guys need $300,000 to fix your water plant. We as council can't say no, and we're kind of held
Yeah,
ransom.
Well, we either gotta borrow the money of that.
Yeah, no, exactly, but if you had some set aside, it would be better than.
no one had any questions about planning at 226%? No? Anyway, I asked and it will even out. That's our town planning and so those costs are covered by people that bring the issues. The applications, yeah. So any other questions? Be it resolved that council receives the CAO's report 2023-9 for information. And that the 2022 fourth quarter financial update be accepted as presented. All in favor? We're all
Favor.
I'm thinking something else.
Okay, it's carried.
Can I just go back to one thing here? I keep seeing it all the time. On the 6th. I got marked here. We do not have a Day Street. But the financial report says Day Street.
You're right, we don't have a Day Street. It was just to differentiate that road in half. Because we received a grant for this half and we received a different grant from this half. It was just easier when you look on Google Maps, it still identifies it as Day Street. And if there's someone at the provincial infrastructure office that's giving us the grant and pulls up where's Day Street, they can see it. We know.
They
it's-
can't see it, we probably won't get the money.
Yeah, if it,
Well, unfortunately, the mill is along Old Darren Road, 100 Old Darren Road. But.
Yeah.
That's Day Street.
Yeah, no.
yeah, on all our grant applications, it says Day Street and then it's like Old Narren Road, north of Minto intersection. It's just a way to keep the grant people,
The government
yes,
doesn't have their files updated from 10 years back.
you're right.
Okay.
So then we have a bylaw enforcement report. Yes, and so you're here to speak on it. I'm sorry, I thought you were later, but I was looking at the actual bylaw section. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair. My name is Richard Paquette. I'm one of the bylaw enforcement officers that the town contracts to Rainbow District Animal Services and Bylaw Enforcement. Our parent company is Winter Kennels. This is our 50th year this year. We've been doing animal services for the township since 2007 and bylaw enforcement, I believe, the last 5 years. It's full service contract, so we take care of all the nitty gritty, we pay for the trucks. We buy the, things like body armor, cameras, cell phones, we cover all the expenses. And we put officers out in the field to take care of the animal emergencies, property standards complaints, and all the other bylaws that you have on your website. There's quite a few. We don't get complaints about all of them all the time. But my opinion is that it's better to have a good bylaw than to wait for a problem and then have to create one, because nobody likes to debate bylaws when there's something that needs to be addressed, right? Those should already be on the books. And council here on the last council adopted a new animal control bylaw, and they finally expanded service to deal with cats, which was something that we've been asking for a long time. We haven't had any complaints yet or any requests for services specifically to pick up any cats, but as I'm sure there will be, because I know there's a few cats out there. that are, either causing trouble or needing help, right? And that's why that service is there, right? You never know, crazy things happen all the time with animals. And we're there 24/7, 365 days a year, to offer support to residents of the town for those kind of problems. We also cover winter control problems. We have a really nice winter control bylaw here. What we don't have yet is a parking bylaw. We have a policy, but when push comes to shove, and it has come to shove many times here in Nairn Center, we don't really have anything to back that up. And we're going to be proposing a new parking bylaw going forward. So there was a lot of talk about cost of living, and what Wenner Kennels has done this, we're contracted to adjust our contract by the cost of living each year. This year, we've decided to offer all of our clients, not just Nairn Center, but 4% increase. So we've tried to moderate the extremes. We're hoping that this will be an aberration, right? It's quite a big increase. And we've been lucky this year that we've had a lot of different business diversification. We've had some good clients come forward with kind of not steady work, but itinerant work. So our budget was, we're doing okay. So I don't know if there's any questions that you guys have, or any, we can't talk about specific cases, of course, at least, I can be available for in-camera meetings to discuss specific cases. But at the same time, your role as counselors is really to interfere too much in cases, right? You don't advocate for one side or the other, really. You want to kind of stay out of those and encourage people to make those complaints, whether they be written complaints or they can phone our office. We have a 24-hour dispatch system so that if somebody leaves a message, we get that message right away. At least the on-call officer, and we do have somebody on call all year long. So, are there any questions?
No, I just wanted to say that I appreciate your work. And I think I've lived here all my life, and the animals, the dogs and cats are well under control now. Yeah, I get a cat around my yard once in a while. He goes around the edge of the swamp, but he keeps the mice down. They don't bother me at all. So, and the dogs, I had no stray dogs in my yard for a few years. So I'm quite happy with the work you're doing.
As I understood, I thought you were talking about two different systems and are changing the system reporting system.
Well, so the current system that we work under to issue fines, it's called the Provincial Offences Act or Provincial Offences System. The pandemic kind of put that all in kind of a little bit of a state of flux and turmoil. I'm not sure if this is something that Nairn Center is going to be able to do, because you don't have a lot of staff resources that you could allocate towards that. The provincial offenses system does work, right? Like we do write tickets for various things, whether it's improper snow removal or dogs running at large. Those are illegal dumping. I can think of those tickets that we've written over the last couple of years. And there was a time when it was taking a long time for matters to get to trial. That seems to have been kind of resolved a little bit. So it is an option that's out there. We're looking at Espanola and Sable Spanish, maybe, kind of leading the way on these kind of things. And if we can get a system in place, it's something that I would like Nairn Center to think about. Provincial offense cases can take up to, I don't know, sometimes they get resolved quickly, sometimes it takes months and months and months to get trials scheduled. Or things to roll through that system. The average time that municipalities are experiencing for these administrative monetary penalty type cases to be resolved is about 45 days. So they're going a little bit quicker than, but they're kind of getting their act together, provincial offenses too. Right, and you know, not to denigrate them at all, they do great work there and they work really hard, but. The pandemic really kind of threw a monkey in the court system. Right, and it's kind of working itself out now, but
So the big differences between public, provincial offense system and the administrative monetary is that our staff would implement the administrative monetary penalty. Is that how it would work?
yeah, well, right now, provincial offenses is like the traffic ticket system, right? So it's the same, we issue for tickets, we issue the same tickets that the police officers issue and they're heard at traffic court basically, right? So, you know, we have the 100 traffic court matters and you've got the 2 or 3 bylaw enforcement matters at the bottom of the docket. And, you know, sometimes they get dealt with at the beginning of the docket, most of the times they don't, right? Where administrative monetary penalty system would take out the prosecutor, it would take out the justice of the peace and, you know, the court clerk and the court reporter. And replace all that with a screening officer at the local municipality. So here would probably be the CAO that would review the case and decide whether or not it goes on to a hearing officer who and then they would schedule a hearing and then you would have the you know, me as the prosecutor and you'd have the hearing officer and the defense. Right, you go through, you know, however long that took you to have that hearing. Instead of, you know, the current system that we have, which can be very expensive. So it simplifies the system a little bit more. It changes the service methods for tickets, right? Like right now, I have to write the ticket out and then go hand it to the person. Right, and they have to take it. Well, they don't have to take it. I could drop it, leave it, and tell them they're served and stuff like that. But you know, it involves that confrontation. Sometimes that doesn't always go. The administrative monetary penalty system has a whole bunch of different ways that processes can be served, right? And so it's not necessarily in-person service that you're relying on exclusively, right?
So cost wise, I assume that, you know, our CAO is the administrative monetary penalty, then, yeah, I don't even know if she would have time to take on anything like that. But cost wise, are we billed for anything, you know, as it is right now going through the provincial offensive system? And we're not.
It's
billed.
deducted off the amount of fines that you collect. So I'm not sure what your number has been as far as what you get back from the POA system.
It seems to be pretty, it evens itself out usually. So fines are a revenue source for us, but it's also not exactly an expense
At this point,
at this point, yeah. You also talked about needing a more robust property standards bylaw.
yes, so the property standards bylaw that we have now was adopted in 2014 as the same bylaw that Baldwin and Sable Spanish have. It doesn't address the Residential Tenancies Act. The responsibility of enforcing residential tenancy standards has been downloaded in municipalities since 2014. And so instead of a complaint being dealt with under the property standards bylaw, which is how the province wants us to do it, we have to deal with them under the Residential Tenancies Act. So we can still issue orders, but if that person appeals that order, it doesn't go to your property standards committee, it goes to the landlord and tenant tribunal. And we have to go represent the town at the landlord and tenant tribunal. So that's the biggest thing in the property standards bylaw that needs to be addressed. There are a lot of other housekeeping kind of things that would be updated if we went, but the primary purpose, we'd also like to see either fines or like either administrative monetary penalty fines or Provincial Offences Act tickets. So if somebody doesn't clean up their property, we can go write them a ticket, right? Kind
You
of.
can't do that now.
We can summons them to court under Part 3. But we can't, we don't have the ability to issue fines. So like at the end of a Part 3 proceeding where you're summoned to court, you can get a fine, but it's not like I can just go and issue a ticket.
And is the landlord like when you go through the landlord tenant act, that is now extremely, or it was extremely backed up last time I heard,
Yes,
like
so
ridiculously backed up.
I've never had to go to and prosecute a case there. But there were a couple in the last year or so, not necessarily in this municipality, but in the other neighboring municipalities where it's like, oh, we're gonna have to do that. We didn't get appeals filed, so we haven't had to do that, but we want to kind of get ahead of that by having the proper kind of bylaw in place.
Does anyone have any questions? Councilor Day-Petit? Oh,
One question, do we have any outstanding property standards infractions?
Oh, of course, there's
Oh, of course.
That haven't been dealt with?
well, not that haven't been dealt with, everything's a process, right? So when we get our property standards complaint, right, we go and investigate usually within that same week, right? We've gone and we've talked to the person, say, hey, we've got a complaint, here's what the bylaw says, you need to clean up, or you need to do something, right? Depending on, like, sometimes the tenants, sometimes there's you know, property ownership is in question, right? There's different things that could delay cases and I can't say. Yeah, I don't want to be too specific to identify any individuals, of course, but so we go and investigate, we give them some time. We consider issuing an order or not issuing an order. And once that order is issued, then they usually have another 30 days to clean up. And we look at it again. Sometimes we give them longer, depends on how bad it is, right? Like some people can't possibly clean up their mess in 30 days, right? So, you know, they get a little bit longer to do.
I was only thinking of one complaint I know of, and it was 2 years ago, and it hasn't been dealt with yet.
Well, like I said, I
It
don't want to
hasn't
get
been-
too,
it hasn't
Yeah,
been
let's not
perfect.
get-
Put it that way.
let's not get specific.
No, but not giving any.
No.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
yeah, and there's different reasons why that might be the case, right? And like if you guys have a complaint, right, like you're members, citizens of the town, you're welcome to make complaints. Right, and then when you make that complaint, then you become one of the respondents to that complaint, you can ask questions, you can get updates and different things like that. So if you've made a complaint, feel
No,
free
I
to,
didn't make a complaint
You will now.
another time. Thank you.
any other questions?
Councilor Day-Petit, do you have anything?
No,
Honestly.
Well, thank you so much for waiting this
Yeah.
long.
No problem,
to
I was
speak with-
sticking around for the in-camera session, because there is a matter
Okay.
on that part of the agenda. there.
Well, I was wondering why you didn't put them at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah, I was like, poor guys.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Yeah, I wasn't doing that. It was really informative and it's interesting, and this is something definitely, people, residents are really concerned about. It's, you know, property standards and.
Yeah, so the basic message is if you see something, say something, right? You can call our office, right? The current property standards bylaw requires a written complaint to be filed, right? That's not a universe, there's nothing in the building code that says that has to be the case. I'm not sure why that is the case. And it's not something that I think should be in, right? If I'm driving down the road and I see a major problem on a property, like that's a public safety hazard, right? We should be able to address that without having to wait for somebody to send it a written complaint. That's another one of the changes to the property standards bylaw that you'll consider would be to get rid of that written complaint policy.
All right, well, thank you so much. Be it resolved that council accepts the bylaw officers 2022 annual report as presented. All in favor? Councilor
in
David.
favor. In
It's
favor.
carried.
Well, and it's not like, it's not just it's not just me that you're hiring, right? There's, I have 2 other full-time employees now. We finally found our lieutenant, basically. I've been on the search for quite a while now. We've gone through a lot of deputies but now we have a good 3rd full-time staff person. And, you know, and then we also have people like Richard Senior, who's my father, who's been you know, is there to be on call sometimes and covers some of the slack that way and answers the phone and pitches in various ways and does a lot of the administrative work that I don't frankly have time to do. So it's not just myself, it's, like I said, it's a whole team. And if you're in Azilda, feel free to drop by and you can have a tour of the shelter. Let us know you're coming, but if you haven't been already. Feel free to-
Unfortunately, my dog gave me a tour of your shelter.
It happens, right? And
It
that's
does.
what we're there for, is to, you know, when sometimes you can't be there to rescue your dog, right? And that, you know, that's what you've hired us to do, to go out and, you know, make sure that, you know, public safety is preserved, that animal welfare is maintained, right? We also, you know, we work hand in hand with animal welfare services and I like them to call me when they're going on calls in our jurisdictions, and we like to go with them to, you know, offer any support that we can and to give that perspective, the bylaw perspective on the issue. And we contribute a lot of times to solving these problems. But thank you.
That's great. Thank you.
You have a nice day, or I'll be here.
So next we have the Parks and Recreation Committee minutes. Was there anything we needed to discuss from that? Easter party? Easter party? Yeah, so they've asked to organize an Easter party with a budget of $500. I'm assuming it's for children, but I could be wrong, even though I was, well, I was in that, but I'm not sure. Easter party is for children. Be it resolved that the Community Parks and Recreation Committee minutes dated January 23rd, 2023 be accepted as presented, and whereas council notes the committee resolution 2023-7, and therefore be it further resolved that the committee be permitted to organize an Easter party and that they be giving a budget of $500 for planning this event as requested. All in favor?
In favor?
Excellent, that was carried. And then we have the Nairn Water Treatment Plant Management Review Minutes. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Oh, so we don't have to.
We didn't like it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we did good.
Actually, I was interested in the aqua course that they mentioned. And I didn't know if anyone else would be here as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they're looking to offer that, in conjunction with, the other Wabash.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think they're looking the next couple months.
Would anyone else be interested in the water course that they were talking?
It's a
about?
very good course. It's excellent.
No interest. Counselor Jay Petty isn't even in the country, so.
I think that'd be good, the course for the mayor.
Yes, I'll go. I'm a crazy one, but, okay, so we don't have a resolution for that. Then we have the bank reconciliation. We do them each separately.
I have resolutions prepared, just in
Okay.
case there's any questions.
So any questions for October, November, or December 2022 bank reconciliation? Counselor Dave Petit.
None.
All right, then we have the fire chief's report to council. Any comments or anything of interest? Be it resolved that council accepts the fire chief's report to council dated February 7th, 2023 as presented. All in favor?
In favor?
Okay, that brings us to correspondences, and I am actually feeling that we need a break. Is anyone else feeling that way?
I wouldn't mind a little break.
Yeah. So our next issue would be correspondences A. Now we can say the name of people on the letter. Yes. Okay,
Yeah, because it's part of the public agenda.
Yeah.
We cannot discuss individuals that
work
own
for
the
the town.
business or, you know, we can discuss the business name, but we can't talk about
Okay,
individuals.
so as we talk about these correspondence, we can name the person that has submitted the letter. We cannot name the businesses or town employees, specific town employees. So the first one would be Jason McGregor talking about winter road maintenance, January 4th. I saw this very early and it really seems to deal with the time when we had a lot of truck breakdown issues. It barely missed the cutoff for last meeting. And he's right, there were issues. It wasn't due to negligence, it was just that our trucks weren't up and running.
We did discuss this with our
Okay,
municipal superintendent. when
perfect.
he was here.
Yes, we did.
Perfect.
That's why I questioned why we didn't have it on.
That's
Yeah.
a good point. The way our procedural bylaw reads, that if it's addressed to council, it needs to come to council. If you address it to the Public Works Committee, we could address it
Public
there.
Works is council, like, that's what we're,
You're right.
yeah.
I think, Mr. Ray and I are working on rewording that wording in the bylaw, so it gets to the right department right away.
Yeah,
I mean, the other issue is our public works only meets once a quarter at this
Yeah.
point too. So I mean, but I mean,
I did respond to the resident and I did let him know what was going on. You know, there were concerns that we've already
Right.
talked about.
right.
It's just up to council if we want to address it with a formal letter or just, you know, how do we want to address this particular complaint?
I actually think we all saw your letter, right, in response, and I think it did just.
There was nothing wrong.
Yeah.
That was a good way to
Counselor
respond.
McDonald, did you have something to say?
No, I was gonna say that, but somebody corrected me.
Okay, Counselor Jay Petty, any thoughts on that?
No,
Okay, so he's already received correspondence that explained the issue. Then we have Melanie Bilodeau, with her safety concerns about heavy trucks on McCharles Street. Who would like to speak to that? Remember, we cannot mention specific businesses.
question, and
We can discuss these correspondences in
The-
closed session.
the business in question, I thought years back there was bylaws put in place so they could operate. And they were allowed the heavy trucks, they were allowed everything there.
Yeah, our truck bylaw does address that
Yeah.
issue and it does allow it 100%. There's just been some safety issues lately.
I mean, I looked at the pictures and if you know anything about trucks, they gotta go on the other side of the road to turn the corner. There's no way to make it. They'll be across their driveway.
Yes, they were lovely pictures of my home. And my hedges.
Nice hedges.
Yeah.
But it's a noise bylaw too, which he was complaining about, with he'd been plowing, cleaning up the parking lot, and that in 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
I think that's the next one, right?
Was it? Oh,
No, this is, well, both.
Well, I think-
oh,
Yeah, both
Maybe
are
the second one.
issue.
oh, they mentioned the Melody, so I thought you're wrong.
But we are investigating and looking into these issues and actually the legalities involved, just to see.
Just, yeah, see what our bylaws can enforce in the different.
Right, so that's really the issue, is clarifying the bylaws. Counselor McVeigh, did you have anything else to say about it? Counselor Jay Petit,
yeah, I was led to believe that, perhaps our lawyers were looking into that, for specific reasons. Is that correct?
Can you say that again, please?
He was under the assumption that the lawyers were looking at that you would send it on
Yeah,
for review or whatever.
we're gonna be discussing that part in closed session. Okay,
You hear that?
Yeah,
You heard that? Okay.
yeah, so we'll be dealing with that more specifically in closed session. And then we have a letter from Peter and Evelyn Diebel about the OCL construction property and a new takeover. Would anyone like to speak to that?
I don't really understand what she wants to know, like. She more or less don't really say nothing. Like. She wants to know what they're doing there. Well, they're doing the same thing they've been doing there years.
Oh, no, I live just down the street. Things have changed.
Oh, no, it's changed, but understand, it's under.
It's busier.
Yes, it's definitely busier.
You don't know. And I guess it's really not our business. If somebody else gonna be operating in there and working, that's. Belongs to their.
Do I want to know what's going on at Interfor? Can they tell me what they're selling? Like, I don't really know. So when I read that, I don't know how we know.
And again, this is something also that is at the lawyers. Yeah, we'll go more into detail into that in the closed session. So it is a concern. People are concerned about it. There's been a few comments and complaints about it. People reaching out to us individually, but we'll discuss it more. So be it resolved that the correspondences 7A to C are noted as received. Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor McVeigh, all in favor,
in favor.
and that's carried. I'm sure we'll be discussing these issues more. Then we're at motions. And this is for our Councillor Jay Petit to be a representative to the Board of Health. Thank you so much, Councillor Jay Petit. And you are also serving on the hospital board as well.
That's correct.
Yeah, so I think that's a good fit. Does anyone have any comments or anything, or? So be it resolved that council recommend to the Posh Foothills Municipal Association that Councillor Guy Petit be appointed as the Posh Foothills Association representative to the Public Health Sudbury and District Board. All in favor?
I guess I'm in favor of that.
You better be, it's carried. I hope those meetings aren't long. Then we have bylaws, to adopt the recycling services agreement that I think we previously approved with. We approved, moving forward with presenting the contract and it's been accepted. Okay. So this is, I think we actually thought, like, we could have changed the contract, but we just kept the contract changed.
Just status quo, yeah.
Yeah, and to look at it in the future here. So be it resolved that being a bylaw to adopt an agreement for recycling services between the corporation of the township of Narren Hyman and Warner Woodley operating as Sandbay camps be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed in open council, and its number shall be 2023-1. All in favor?
In
That's
favor.
carried. And that's at our 1 year for recycling agreement on Sand Bay. Then we have bylaw 2023-4 to appoint a committee of adjustment for the township of Narren and Hyman. Do we need to discuss that at all? I think I have it. Committee of adjustment. Be it resolved that being a bylaw to appoint a committee of adjustment for the township of Narren and Hyman be read a first, second, and third time. And finally passed in open council, and its number shall be 2023-4. All in favor?
In favor.
And then we have a bylaw being a bylaw to establish a public code of conduct policy.
Requesting a recorded vote.
recorded.
And just like maybe the requested amendments if you want to.
Initially. Be it resolved that being a bylaw to establish a public code of conduct policy be read at first, second, and third time and finally passed in open council, and its number shall be 2023-5. All in favor? Oh, it's a recorded vote. So Counselor McVeigh, you're a yes. Counselor Day was that a yes?
Yes.
Counselor Austin? Sorry. And yes, and Counselor McDonald.
No.
It was carried. That did include the changes that the CAO would report to council if it had to be enforced. But we don't have any other information. Okay, great idea from Counselor Austin. I had asked you to bring your top 5 current issues for the township, and that we could coordinate our top 5 issues so we can not overload our CAO with multiple different directions. But Counselor Austin has suggested that we have a separate meeting for that. Are you saying to put it off for a month or?
You call me.
Okay, just a separate one? Is there a cost to that? If we
Well,
have another-
If we could do it during the day, if it's in the next, like if it's in the next month, because I'm the only one that works, like during the day. So, okay, and so like I can,
But there is a cost associated. with
There
it.
is, yes.
So if we did it, with our,
There's a- You get paid the next amount.
oh,
If
okay,
there's a spe-
okay,
usually
sorry.
a special meeting.
so if we did it with, like, at the, like, an hour before the council meeting in a month, is there any extra costs incurred then?
Yes, it's still a special
So-
meeting.
Okay.
And we're probably saving it by doing it during work hours, because then we don't have to. Oh, and she's already here.
It
Okay,
could be during the day, yeah.
I got no problem with your meeting.
okay. So let's have a special meeting. Maybe we will, try to do it during the day. I guess, yeah, we're gonna need to write a resolution. And I'm thinking in 2 weeks. But I mean, theoretically,
2 weeks. When's family day? Is that next Monday? Oh, it's, yeah, it is next Monday.
What's the date?
I-
Do we want to call it at another time or do you?
yeah.
So did you want it to say that there will be a special meeting scheduled to discuss, to be established?
To be, yeah, to discuss the 5 top current issues, because I think we're anticipating this might take a lot. Basically, we're trying to choose our top 5 priorities.
Yep.
Immediately, but. Whereas council has received other business items shared by Mayor Macy resulting requesting of discussion regarding the top 5 issues and that there will be a special meeting scheduled to discuss. All in favor?
In favor.
And that's carried. Then we have matters for closed session. Be it resolved that council moved into closed session at 9:13 PM. For the purpose stated in section 239.2 of the Municipal Act, labor relations or employee negotiations, litigation or potential litigation. Advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. All in favor?
In favor.
That's carried. So we'll stop recording. We had general discussions held in closed session about labor relations or employee negotiations, litigation, potential litigation advice that is subject to solicitor client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Be it resolved that being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the corporation of the township of Marion Hyman be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed in open council, and its number shall be 2023-6. All in favor?
In favor?
Carried. Be it resolved that the meeting of February 13th, 2023 do now adjourn at 9:41 PM. To meet again on the 13th day of March 2023, or at the call of the mayor. All in favor?
In favor?
All right.